got a voice like you too. He's got that radio voice.
Real deep voice.
Oh, that's awesome. And are you guys getting any echo or anything from your talking on my mic, or are we good?
You're perfect. How do we sound?
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, crystal clear. I was concerned about that when I realized, oh shoot, I don't know where I put my headphones. So
Okay.
But it sounds like it's working pretty well.
Fantastic.
Now, I guess now you're kind of like God right now. We can't, you can see us, but we can't see you. So
I exist.
Yeah, but so can you see? I'm using all my good lineup, Nick.
I
gotta save these. Wait till we roll the tape.
I'm
But
recording now.
You see what we're doing for you. You can see. Can you see the Cubs game? So if it really gets ask you really dumb questions, you just watch the game. I think this is perfectly legal.
This is totally legal, and we will be sued for this.
I don't think that the resolution is suable enough. It looks like, Real Player circa 1998, like it's buffering right now.
If you squint, I'd be able to make out Ben Zobrist playing a catch.
Are you catching the horizontal lines? Is that going across there too? Like it's some type of security camera?
No, not at all. It's it's highly pixelated. Seriously, it looks like it's like old school, like Sega CD kind of video, just like real grainy.
I spent a lot of money on that TV, Nick. And he's saying it's a crappy TV.
Well, no, you're in the foreground, so it's focused on you more. So
okay. Well, you know what? We're just gonna assume Jesse died.
Yeah, we're gonna have a post-mortem for him here.
Is this recording yet? I'm telling you.
I am. We are recording.
Oh, excellent.
Everything
Well,
you say can and will be held against you.
Okay. Because let's go ahead and why don't you do the intro, Nikki? Because we don't want Steven to think that this is not a professional show here.
I don't think he has any doubts anymore.
Oh no, I know. I'm working with pros.
There we go.
There are no. It's not delusional. Okay, go ahead, Nick. Let's run it. Let's hear it. What do you got?
1 second.
He worked for. Hey, well, I'm just gonna be quiet. Let the intro go. 3, 2, 1.
Again.
We're gonna try that again.
You're listening to ToastDispatch Radio with Nick and Nick, episode 3 of season 2. We're joined today by special guest Steven Walden. He's a St. Louis-based artist specializing in sports and pulp culture paintings, and you've probably seen some of his 3D paintings of the Blues and Cardinals. Very cool stuff. You can check out his work over at stevewalden.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Steven Walden. Steven, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks, guys, so much. I really appreciate you having me on here.
We're excited to get going on here.
Hey, Nick, I want to do that intro again. Not really, but hey, come on. This is Steven Walden, the baddest artist in St. Louis, painting blues artwork and some other stuff.
Yeah.
The other stuff.
Well, why don't we talk about that artwork for a little bit here? Very cool stuff. I've seen your stuff around for a little while now, and you started to get really popular during this Cardinal season, was correct?
Yeah, I think things really picked up for me about a year ago, a little over a year ago. It was when Adam Wainwright actually saw some of my work that I did for the CEO of Rankin Jordan, the Children's Hospital, for Lori Tanner. And she's over there at Rankin Jordan. They do great work over there. And Adam, he was out for most of last year, and he in his off time, he being the humanitarian that he is, he spent time by going to Rankin Jordan to visit with the sick kids, and he saw the painting in Lori's office, and I knew that he was going to be there. And I said, hey, Lori, when Adam comes by, I know he does a lot of humanitarian stuff, and he has this Big League Impact charity. I'd love to be involved with him, and if you would just let him know that I'd be interested in. And just to go from there. And she did. And Adam saw the painting. He loved it. And then that night I get a message from him on my phone, a direct message, like, hey man, love your work. Would love to work together. And he put out a photo of him posing next to the painting itself, and Fox Sports picked up that image. And that's when things really took off for me. That's, so I owe Adam my career.
That's awesome. That's one of the things I wanted to ask you about too, was because you paint a picture of Adam Wainwright. Mm-hmm. You're a Cardinals fan, of course, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So you paint a picture of Adam Wainwright, and then you get a picture back of Wainwright posing with your work. That's gonna be a pretty cool feeling right there.
That was pretty awesome, and I'm really active on the Cardinals subreddit. Well, the I don't know about active, but I post my stuff on Reddit, on the Cardinals subreddit on there. And actually, that was the first place that I saw that had actually gone, that Adam had posted that on Twitter, that image of him posing next to it, was that someone else had posted it on Reddit. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know. I'd gotten that image from him, but I didn't see that he posted it to the masses. And when that happened, that was just when things just really caught fire. And someone on there suggested, okay, now you have to paint a picture of him posing next to the picture of him. And so we decided we must go deeper. This is Wayneception. So
exactly, Wayneception. I think that's the first time I saw your work too, was on that Reddit post.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. You launched at that moment because that's 168,000 plus followers. So that'll get you some exposure.
Yeah, and I've tried to be really smart with my art career when I decided I was going to give it a go. And I one of the things that I did differently from what other artists do is, rather than going from I'm going to paint my truth and I'm going to paint, something that expresses the essential nature of the universe. I'm like, man, I want to paint stuff that's going to help me keep my light bill paid, and it's like the things that I gravitated to is like, I reverse engineered it, and that I looked at what's a market that exists right now with where I live. Well, St. Louis. So, and the line that I tell people all the time, there are two passions. There's the Cardinals and toasted ravioli. I had a lot more leeway, of what I could paint with the Cardinals. And so I went there. It's a built-in audience, to see if, these people are going to like my work, because, you have, when you're putting your art out there, it's not just the subject matter of what you're doing. It's also, are people going to dig your style or not? And I knew that, well, there's already going to be a buy-in with, people like Cardinals, because there are Cardinals toilet seat covers that sells. So it's like, if they like, the Cardinals, that's part of the buy-in. The other part is, are they going to like my style? And they did. And so, way just led on to way. So, but yeah, in terms of like, tapping into an audience that already exists, yes, that's been very intentional on my part. And I think that's why I've been able to have success as a self-taught artist, that I think that a lot of other artists, that they're still trying to find their way, even though that they've had professional training and that they've done this for so much longer than I have.
Well, I'd say great minds think alike, Steven, because that's the same with our podcast. We thought the same with tapping to the Cardinals market and the Blues, and we also have. Oh, Nick's looking at me like, "Hey, Dad, it's not true. We're not a success yet." But hey, I got to tell you this. I meant to say this at the beginning, Steven, that we've got to throw a disclaimer out there. You are on a sports parody account, website, podcast, Twitter account, place, right? So we're supposed to be.
That was a long roundabout way of saying that.
We're supposed to be kidding around with you a lot here. So, because I only say that because I've heard some of your interviews. You're a serious guy. You're a thoughtful person. And so when we're kidding around here, we're never making light of your, certainly your wonderful motives and, just the art that you do and everything else. So.
No, go ahead. Give me full bore, and I'll just curl up in a fetal position and cry about it after the show.
Yeah, I think that'll be us.
Steven.
I've also heard your wit. You're pretty funny, so I think we'll be curled up.
I'll do what I can. Yeah, it's because I'm drunk most of the time, so that helps.
All right, so Nick, you throw out another serious question. I'll make fun of it.
No, okay, here we go. So really, how did you? I love the style painting. Would you call it 3D? What would you call your style?
People have asked me this before, and it's like I don't really know. I guess colorful as hell might be a way to describe it. But I can tell you the influences for people that I don't know that if it's been conscious or subconscious, but I didn't start painting until 2 years ago, so this is all really new for me. So it's like when I got into it, it's like I just kind of tapped into this reservoir of stuff that I knew that I already liked, and I liked Henri Matisse's work, or Henri Matisse, if you're, one of the snobby art house people that, is a barista in your waking life. Matisse was a big influence because of his colorful palette. Leroy Neiman, who I know he gets a lot of flack for being a crappy artist and putting out bad art, but man, I love Neiman. I think Neiman is great. And Neiman was a big influence for me the minute that I saw his painting that was on the final frame of Rocky III, when Apollo Creed and Rocky are boxing each other at the very end of that movie. It freeze frames into this punch, and then it crossfades into a Leroy Neiman painting of that scene, and I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. And then of course comics. I grew up loving comics, so Jack Kirby, Alex Ross. I mean, it's like the stuff that this 4-color kind of explosion. That's a huge influence on me. And then again, also knowing that I wanted to paint this subject matter, I wanted to pick colors and to decide on a color palette that would reflect the joy that people feel when they look at the work. So it's like I knew that I wanted to paint happy stuff and with a happy palette. So, and that's I don't know that there's a name for it. We can come up with the name for it. Who knows? By the time I'm dead, maybe it'll be Waldenism. I don't know. We'll see.
That's a goal to set for, right? Set the sights high.
That's right. Maybe it'll be like Midwestern expressionism, or something like that. I don't know. The ravioli school. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they'll name the wing after you, the toasted ravioli wing.
Love it.
So I went to your website as we started preparing for this podcast. I looked at some of your stuff, but I do have to say what caught my eye was the main slider piece was Cubs player. I kind of felt like you sold out.
Okay, so full disclosure, I grew up a Cubs fan.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I grew up in Southern Arkansas. Okay?
We just got mooned. That was so full.
So, all right. So this is the part where I can actually tell the story is that I grew up a Cubs fan. I grew up in Southern Arkansas, and so I'll back up. When I really started to get into sports, I was about 10 years old, and that was 1985. So I'll do the math for you. I'm 41. When I was like, the thing that really caught my eye in 1985 was a confluence of two things. Number one, I decided, most 10-year-olds and their level of discernment, how do they decide who they're going to root for in a football team? Well, which team has the best rap video? And at that time, of course, it was the Chicago Bears. And the other thing that happened at the same time, so I'm 10, so I'm right on the edge of adolescence. And I saw Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which is a huge love letter to the city of Chicago. And growing up in Southern Arkansas in a small town and seeing this, magical world by this guy that, he was, this narcissistic kid that controlled everything in the palm of his hand. It was such adolescent wish fulfillment. I immediately glommed on to Chicago as like my spirit city. And so I started following the Bears, and the way that you follow the Bears in Southern Arkansas pre-internet was to watch WGN. And I watched Dan Roan's highlights, at 9 o'clock after the game on our WGN channel. And what happened is, before the Bears stuff came on, I had to watch the other stuff. So the Cubs came on. I'm like, oh, who's this really drunk guy that's doing color commentary for this baseball team? He sounds kind of funny, and then I'm like, oh my God, this guy, this Andre Dawson guy, he crushes the ball. Mark Grace, he's All-American. Okay, you know what? I've got to sit through Cubs highlights to get to my Bears. Well, I'm going to start rooting for the Cubs, and then we also had access to them. And so I became a Cubs fan. I became a Bulls fan Michael Jordan dynasty, by the way. My other connection is Scottie Pippen, an Arkansas boy. So, I suffered through the migraine game and, getting our asses handed to us by the Pistons. But it's like I became a Chicago sports fan. I was surrounded by Dallas Cowboys fans who are pretty insufferable, quite honestly. So it's like I became, a Bears fan by as a rejecting of the norm. And so wow. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, so I got to throw out real quick. So when the bromance ended with Sandberg, and you left puberty, is that when you became a Cardinals fan?
So I always rooted for the Cardinals from afar. And not being in Chicago, not being in St. Louis, I wasn't really in the thick of the rivalry. It's like I knew that they were a rivalry on paper, but it's really different living in St. Louis. And I moved here in 2004. It's really different being around people that actively hate the Chicago Cubs, which I'm like, oh, this is really a rivalry, that really does exist. And the other thing is I didn't get the rivalry from afar also because the Cardinals have been so historically good and the Cubs have been so historically awful. So it's that, how can there be a rivalry when there's really only one good team in the whole mix? So
how in the world did you down in Arkansas not the 50,000 watt clear channel radio station that is KMOX?
There is an Arkansas connection, with the Cardinals. And for the longest time, we had the Travelers. So we had the AA team, and Ray Langford, Bernard Gilkey, those guys came up through the system. And so again, it's like, I wasn't actively against the Cardinals, but it's like, well, I got to, the Cubs got to me first. And again, it's like, we got more broadcast of Rangers games where I was, because I was, we're geographically closer, being in southwestern Arkansas. We were closer to Dallas than we were to St. Louis. There were still Cardinals fans, but I think that's when the Cardinal Nation really started to dissipate out, and you started getting more Ranger blue, because again, I think it's that rooting for a team by proxy. You had so many Cowboys fans, well, they became Rangers fans. So I think that's, probably it more than anything. But I also rooted for the Cardinals at the same time, but I didn't really, get into baseball again, because quite honestly, baseball lost me. I've gone in and out of my love of baseball, throughout, my lifetime, when the work stoppage hit or when the strike hit, it's like I fell out of love, and then I fell back in love with the home run race with Sosa and McGuire, and then fell back out of love with the steroid scandal. And then now that I moved here, it's like, it's really difficult to be in this area and to have friends and loved ones in St. Louis who love the Cardinals and to not also love the Cardinals, because when they win, my friends and loved ones are happy. And so it's like, even before I started the art thing, it's like I still pulled for the Cardinals. I remember where I was, game 6, which is one of the greatest baseball experiences I've ever had as a spectator, so it's like, it's just interesting now that, both teams now, the Cardinals and Cubs, are competitive. And I hate it when they play each other, frankly, because to me, it's like mommy and daddy are fighting. I just want to go in the other room and, cover my ears and bang my head.
Man, well, you know what? You're the Joseph Smith / Mormon of the baseball world. You got all these wives. Every team you're married to. Now let's count.
No, I want to give you, this is a hockey podcast, so we can give you a pass on the Bears, the Cubs. But I guess we have Rocky Worst to thank then that the Blackhawks weren't being broadcast nationally. So you don't have a Blackhawks love, right?
I don't, and I've been told that, now that I've become a part of the St. Louis Blues family, that would be a mortal sin. It doesn't mean I'm not going to paint Blackhawks, because I got bills to pay too. But it's that, anytime they play each other, it's like, well, no, I've got to root for the Blues, because the Blues, the franchise has just been so good to me, and the players that I've been able to meet, they've just been so awesome. So it's like, there's, yes, I have multiple allegiances, but I think it's safe to say that I bleed blue.
We'll take that. I'd say we'll give you a good one on there.
Thank you.
So how do you? I got to hear this. You're Mr. Introspection, or introspective. So you really you think about a lot of things. You deeply here, and so now there's this, oxymoron or something going on with the psyche of Cardinal fans, because on one hand, yes, we're supposed to hate the Cubs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, everybody cheers for that the lovable losers, or everybody would cheer for that what's the word I'm looking for the
underdog, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, for the dark horse. So that's natural, right? You want to see the guy that never won win, or something like that. So now, how do you feel about the Cubs now? So you love the Cardinals, you like the Cubs. So I guess that's not actually a fair question for you, because you still love the Cubs.
Yeah, I do. But I tell you, it's been harder for me to follow the Cubs this season, because as much as I love the Cubs fans are pretty insufferable, with this entitlement of like, oh man, the World Series is ours this year. And I'm like, dude, have you ever watched a Cubs season from start to finish and to know the heartbreak that is involved? It's like you are setting yourself up for disaster. And it's like the Cubs fans that have been historically Cubs fans, and, bandwagon, whatever. People that are jumping on and rooting for the Cubs, ultimately, I think it's good for the game. You're growing the game, you're growing the sport, and baseball needs that, yes. But there's also this insufferable entitlement that comes along with it that, they don't quite get what has come before. And it's like, and the chirping that goes back and forth on social media, it's like, would you just stop? Would you win one? It's like, just win one. And then, you guys can draw at each other, but just stop.
Right. Oh, 2 things I got to say about the Cubs real quick. So Cubs fans, ones that have been fans through the bad years, are great. Those guys are great to talk to, and they know what they're talking about, and they have a great view on it all. The ones that just joined this year and last year are the ones that really, really bug me. Because, like you said, they're all over social media and they're talking crap and they're acting like they've been there before and they've won it before, and they haven't. They haven't in over 100 years. 108 now, I think it is. And so it's just that gets annoying because they want to talk crap, but they don't have any crap to talk. They've got nothing to back. I'll talk. And then the other thing that bugs me is real quick is that the media, they still want to sell them as the lovable losers. They still want to sell them as underdogs. But this Cubs team is one of the best baseball teams I've seen assembled. They don't have a lot of weak spots. They've got stars up and down the lineup. They're not underdogs anymore. They won more games in the league than anybody else. Can't sell them as underdogs.
Right, they're an underdog in a very huge market also. So it helps bring in viewers. It helps sell tickets, for them to continue to harp on that angle. And honestly, I'm ashamed, even as a Cubs fan, to listen to national broadcasts and how much national broadcasting teams are favoring the Cubs, because it's like listening to the Cubs stream. It's like, can we have a little bit of bipartisanship here? But and I get it, because it's good for baseball, for the Cubs. Anytime that a big market team is good, it's going to be good for the sport overall, because you're reaching more people and you're helping grow the sport. I mean, really, would this be as much of a news story if this were the Tampa team, they were the love? I mean, no, because it's like the historic Tampa St. Pete area and all the storied baseball that's happened now. Like, no, people don't care about that story, but the other one, it helps bring in viewers.
Yeah, that's what it is at the end of the day. It's about ratings. So I think Nick had something here he wanted to say.
Well, if I did, I'd be digressing, but if you'll indulge me, I would. So
give me 30 seconds.
Well, I was just thinking about the fact that I personally am one that says, on one hand, I think most of my psyche, my sports psyche, says I'd like to see the Cubs win. 8 years, 25,000 and something days since they even had a World Series win. I want to see them win. I think it's an exciting story. It'll be incredible to watch from a drama, almost like it's a movie unfolding before us all. But you hear apparently a lot of Cardinal fans are saying, no way, they're sticking to their guns. I hate the Cubs. I'll hate them to the end, right? And so I just thought I think that's an interesting thing to talk about. But speaking to the fact that I do want the Cubs to win, and staying with my story here, I'm going to read something I posted back before they had Twitter. It's fairly short, Nick, so don't hang up on me. Before they had Twitter, Facebook, and everything else, I think I did this on some type of message board. So I addressed it to all the Cubs fans. Are you ready, Steven?
Yeah, hit me.
This is an artist. This show has a lot to it. It's more than just sports. So, as the self-appointed ambassador of the Saint, this is what I wrote in 2003. I got to build this up a little better. So in 2003, we know what happened to the Cubs, right? Mm-hmm. We know Bartman. We know Game 6 it was in Chicago. What were they, 4 outs away?
Yeah.
4 Voices to Lou was interfered with.
Right.
So everybody knows that story. So as that happened, does anybody, and you might remember this, Steven, Nick won't, too little. Where were you, Nick? Like 3? You were 4 years old. So, Steven, do you remember the iconic images of the different fans when the camera went to the fans as they lost that game? The look on their face, women, tears, rolling down their eyes, fathers crying with their sons next to them. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it was kind of iconic, right? That imagery.
I'm gonna have to stop you there, Nick. You're gonna need to stop giving the guests you're gonna PTSD here. You keep on rubbing it in. You're like, hey, do you remember the face? You remember the tears?
Yeah, the tears.
Were you crying, Steven? Remember how you cried?
Yeah, man, you'll have after I read this, you'll have to tell me if you were crying, and then we'll try to figure out if it was because of what I read, or if it was because of the.
Okay.
So, as the self-appointed ambassador of the St. Louis, and this is what I wrote: as the self-appointed ambassador of the St. Louis Cardinals, I'd like to address this letter to all of the 2003 National League Central Division champion Chicago Cub fans. As the last out descended from above, your hearts were put to rest by what could have been. The images shown were of stoic fathers holding tight the hands of their children. In disbelief, you closed your eyes. You seem to have been saying with one mind, we have lost again. We are cursed. I, for one, tell you no lie. You are all winners and have been for a very long time. Your love of your team through the best of times, and more importantly, through the worst of times, has demonstrated your loyalty for all to see. This loyalty is your ring. Wear it proudly, as you should. I have many fond memories of the great Cubs games, and my father's father could say the same. that we always want to beat the Cubbies in every game. But I tell you this, that for the first game, that the first game that I see the 2003 National League Central Division champions step onto the field at Busch Stadium, I hope every other lifelong Cardinals fan will stand and applaud you and your great team, the Chicago Cubs. I wrote that night because I was so moved by what I had seen. Okay.
That's a classic move. And that's actually one of the things I've also seen on social media is a lot of class from Cardinals fans and Cardinals fans that have said, you know what? I'm rooting for the Cubs. And that reminds me of my high school in that, or even growing up an Arkansas Razorbacks fan, that when you get knocked out of the playoffs, you root for the team in your conference. You root for the people that are your tribe, the people that are in your region. And I've seen some of that, which has been surprising. Now, I've also watched a couple of the World Series games in bars, and there have been a lot of Indians fans in those bars. So I will say that, and that's also been amusing to listen to. So there's definitely a lot of people that hinge their identity on St. Louis's success as a baseball team and Chicago's failure as a baseball team, and that's a reality.
True.
That's the truth there for sure. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to root against the Cubs. Personally, I wouldn't, just because I'm someone that I want to see the curse continue just so they can keep playing up that storyline personally. I wouldn't be upset if the Cubs won.
Oh, cut it out. He's backpedaling. Nick, this is so funny. I got to interject this real quick. When you get older and you have a father and son relationship, it is fairly normal in that it's normal with the generational gap in place. Father-son relationship.
Mind the gap.
Nick sees me as the older complaining guy. I complain about things. I'm a little bit cynical. I'm not as happy. When I was young, things were better. They weren't like they are now. Right? That kind of thing. So to hear Nick complain about the Cubs is hilarious. And now to see him backpedaling almost apologetically.
Hold on. I'm not backpedaling.
The Cub apologist.
I'm just saying I just said I'd like to see them lose.
All right.
If they won, I'd be happy for the lifelong fans.
Oh.
Not the bandwagon fans. I'd
That's
be very
the first
upset
time
that they just hitched their bandwagon to the championship team. Got to see that, but for the lifelong fans, I'd be happy.
Okay, well, let's get a Cubs update. We've got the score is 0-0 or 0-0 for you soccer fans. It's bottom of the fourth, and wait, we got somebody on first. I don't know who it is, and I don't know who's up.
Thank you, Joe Buck.
So in honor of since I've invoked the spirit of Ferris Bueller, and you just told me the score was 0-0. I have to invoke the spirit of Ed Rooney as well and ask you, well, who's ahead? That was his line from there.
You know what? It went right over my head. I kind of remember the movie, but not that well.
Oh my gosh, it's embedded into my neurons. So it was a formative film for me. That's for sure.
It's a classic.
We have a funny little Twitter post that we did one time.
I remember that one now.
Yeah. So I did. Halak had the blue flu, which that was what we called it at least, and he had missed some games. We thought it was because he was upset. I don't know if you remember the old Blues goalie Halak.
I know the name, but no, I'm a very new Blues fan.
Oh, okay. Well,
let's hear the story.
Well, I guess it's one of those things you have to see the picture. But the bottom line is that we went ahead and did a Ferris Bueller, except we did it Halak's day off. So I took the Ferris Bueller poster and stuck Halak's face on there, and had just taken the day off basically when he was saying he wasn't feeling well. But at the time there was some controversy going on with the team on who was going to be the number one goalie. We kind of felt like he was pouting, so he took his day off.
Nice.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. Yeah. All right, Steven, this is the part of the show where I show you my artwork. Here's what I drew. Look at that. Can you see it?
I can't see that.
Can you see that? Now, I drew this. I was inspired by a Time magazine article. If I remember correctly, it was like it was like something the mom, the wife brought home from the library for the kids when they're little. And so it was probably about a 10-year-old magazine from the library. I don't know, 5 years old, but it was an article about dirt track racing down south. It was at the track, and he was on the front cover, and I thought, what an interesting face. So I ran out and grabbed the charcoals and ran out in the porch, and Nick was rolling around in his diapers, probably throwing poop at me or something.
It helped add to the artistic fuel.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah. But I don't draw as much anymore. I hope you never lose that desire. 3 kids later, and you're just it's all over.
Well, I mean, it's fairly new to me, the painting thing is, and it's like I've changed careers like 5 or 6 times. So who knows? This is where my energy is right now. So I'm just going with it.
Well, Nick, do you want to take a commercial break and we'll come back and talk about the Blues a little bit?
Oh yeah, Steve. We got. You know what? I did it. Darn it! Play something on one of your little. Play something for
What do
me.
you want me to play?
Anything that you got. No, that wasn't it. I see. The deal was I wasn't supposed to call you Steve. You're Steven, right?
Yes.
I got it stuck on my head. It's Steve, and I can't. I'm like, Steven, say it.
Well, you can say Steve. It's fine. I respond to Steve, Steven, Stone Cold, all that. But the website is Steven Walden. That's the only problem.
Don't go easy on us, Steven. Your mom named you for some reason. Mom and dad. All right. So, but you were supposed to play. Nick's got all these sound effects, and I was like, "Here's your perfect opportunity, Nick."
Well,
And you're
maybe
supposed to.
it is stupid, but it's also dumb.
Okay, that was good. It was his cue. He's supposed to know when I do something like that. He's supposed to play something. But we do now. Steven, you might have thought that this show was just an up and coming podcast show that was just getting its feet off the ground, but really we're well established, and a well established show, of course,
culture.
Right, would have commercials and sponsors and different things. So we want to get a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere because you might think the commercial is kind of funny. Okay, go ahead and play it. Let's go to commercial break.
When I need to save my business a few bucks, this happens.
Office Max has a 5% coupon off almost nothing.
Okay, but what I really need is a new logo.
Our cashier can help you design your brand identity and ask you if you'd like a 5-year extended warranty with that.
Great. Now about all these files.
Office Max has 250 megabyte hard drives that are just your style.
Nothing can stop me now.
Except our 500% markup on ink.
If you need it for your business, you won't find it here. I suggest you try Staples. Restrictions apply. 5% off light bulbs only. Offer expired 1 day before this ad aired.
Yeah, most people don't think we have Office Depot on board. We do. As a matter of fact, later on, you're going to hear a nice, I was shocked when this happened, but we've got Monsanto on board now.
Oh my gosh.
I think that does say that the writing's on the wall for them.
They can go no lower.
Yeah. Yeah, when they're reaching out to us. Okay, well, you'll hear the Monsanto one later. That one's a little more vindictive.
So let's jump in. Let's talk some Blues hockey here. Biggest headline of the week so far is that the Blues are going to retire number 5 in honor of Bobby Plager.
I think I see a painting coming.
I would love to do as many of the alumni. I was going to say old timers, legends, no wait, they call them alumni. As many of the alumni as possible. Because again, I think like for me, when I get into something, I go all in, and I want to learn as much about the history of a sport or the history of anything. It's like I want to go deeper and to figure out what is the true story behind it. Because that to me that gives authenticity to whenever you're speaking about a subject or an art creating from it. So it's like I want to understand these things from a more authentic perspective, which has been I don't want to say a struggle for me, but it's been very much at the front of my mind with hockey because I didn't grow up with hockey. Hockey is very new to me, not just as a St. Louis Blues fan, but the sport in general and trying to understand it. And I absolutely love it. But in terms of like my hockey IQ is so much lower compared to any of the other major sports.
Mm-hmm. And there's no better spot to start than Bobby Plager if you wanted to try to learn about the Blues history. He's an original player for the Blues, was part of the inaugural team, played over 600 games. And he's been working with the organization on and off the ice for about 50 years now.
I know he's well loved. He spoke at a golf tournament where I was painting live, and he was there, and Brett Hull was there, and of course Chaser was there, and and Bobby got up and he told some stories and had the audience just right in the palm of his hand. And so, yeah, absolutely, you could feel the love in the room. That's for sure.
He's a fantastic storyteller.
Oh yeah, I've got his book. There's a couple books out there if you go to Barnes and Noble and check around. He has some great stories in those books. He's the time machine. I like to think of him as the time machine to the past of blues history. You just you sit down, read one of his books, or I've had a chance to talk to him a few times, and you just feel like you're going back in time. He's a link for us to to the past. I guess he's getting older. I hope he sticks around for a while, because it's kind of always sad to see history kind of fade away. At some point, people forget people.
Way to be a downer, Nick. This is the day they announced his jersey retiring. You're already talking about his funeral.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's the first thing it made me. When I thought of that, I'm like, well, that ain't, how many steps are you away from, you got 1 foot in at least if you get your number retired.
I
Come
hope
on.
Bobby doesn't this episode. He's going to be so ticked off. So we've got Winter Classics coming up. You got any big painting plans for that?
Oh, he does.
And I absolutely. And, I try to work with the Blues in conjunction to figure out, what each piece is going to be. When I was doing a painting at each of the home playoff games during the postseason last season, I mean, it was a churn. So it was like well, who haven't we done? Who are we going to do next? And now that I'm just doing once a month during the regular season, we're able to take our time and to to plan it out a little more. And for the Winter Classic, what I would love to do is a piece of the stadium itself as it has been converted for the game itself. Now that requires me to actually have photo references to paint from, because I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like from an interior view, but it's like I've already painted Busch Stadium from the inside and the outside, and it's like, and I would love to do it for such a major sports event. I mean, this is the closest that St. Louis has had to the Super Bowl since the World's Fair, Olympics, or whenever it was. I mean, this is it's a major deal.
It is. They put in a bid, I know, a little while back for the World Juniors Cup, and that would have been one of the biggest ones they've had. They just missed out on that, I think, to Buffalo, I want to say. But the Winter Classic is going to be a huge event. It's definitely one of the top events they've held in a long time. And speaking of the Winter Classic, that leads right into our tweet of the week here. Andrew Gross on Twitter said that Marty Brodeur thinks he'll be putting the pads back on for the Blues in the alumni game against the Blackhawks. So that would be pretty exciting to see the all-time greatest goalie in hockey strap on the pads for your team one last time.
Representing the Blue Note.
Which I do feel is a little bit of a steal from Devils fans, because I think Brodeur, you automatically think New Jersey Devils. But for him to play for the Blues in the alumni, it's a huge treat for the Blues fans to see that.
Yeah. One of my old favorites I met recently, Eddie Stanowski. I grew up in the driveway making saves and saying, Stanowski, big save. Some Wamsley.
Stanowski.
Yeah, and he said that he didn't announce that he's going to be in, but he said he certainly would like to play, and there's an outside chance. I was talking to Mr. Stillman, and he also mentioned that there's obviously the NHL game, the Blues game, Blues versus Hawks. There's the alumni game, and there's so much interest from all the alumni, and the alumni is so active in St. Louis that there's a chance there's going to be a heritage game, which I guess is a way of saying you're not the alumni game, you're a little older, you're not skating fast, fast enough or whatever, but you love to still play and you're part of St. Louis. So they might have a game like that. Basically an old geezer game. I think
the seniors tour.
Right. The seniors tour. I like that. So they could have the seniors tour. And you know what I heard too, Nick?
Mm-hmm.
If anybody does listen to this podcast that I
if anybody I can show you the stats. There are indeed people listening to this.
I meant to say is that if anybody who I get to play hockey with,
okay,
listens to this, like Yaker or Campbell or Mr. Stillman or Mr. DeWitt or any of those guys, they're going to probably not stop telling me things in the locker room. But I'd heard in the locker room that the NHL basically, I guess this is no big secret anyways, the NHL picks the players. The NHL strongly influences who's going to play for the alumni.
You know what? I'm gonna need a sound effect going and a counter for like every time you mention that you've played with the alumni. He likes every podcast, Steven. I swear. If you go back to the archives and listen to every episode, you will find at least one mention each episode. And the alumni were talking to me, and I played. They told me.
Steve,
well, to your defense, as someone that I've started to work more with athletes and celebrities, stones, because I'm a name dropper supreme. So it's like, you know what? There's an art to it, and I say go for it.
I don't have it. Sorry. There's an art to it. Go on.
No. I just say go for it as much as possible. It's like I have no shame in dropping names, especially if it advances my cause with women. I mean, by all means.
So we gotta mention that Steven has. So you do have a degree in counseling.
Yeah, I have a master's in professional counseling, and before that, another master's in creative writing, and before that, a bachelor's in English.
So
And you can see my other training on my LinkedIn profile if you're looking to hire.
So as I've read my poem from 13 years ago, and then I've got my painting that showed you, and I'm doing all my name dropping. I'm picturing you like in your chapter, and you're looking in your psychology book, and you're looking under insecurity right now. You're like insecurity. Yep, here it is.
Well, that's one of the interesting things is that when you go through a program or when you get into that field, and when people find out about that, that you are a counselor, it's one of two reactions. One, they want to tell you all their problems. The other reaction is they don't want to say anything because they're afraid that, oh, we're judging you. And the answer is, no, I'm not judging you. I'm a counselor. I'm diagnosing you.
And that'll be?
Well, that'll be $250 an hour.
Right.
So let's get this straight here. So if we wanted to, we could come to Steven Walden. We could lay on a nice big red couch.
You could paint me first.
We could tell you all our problems. You could paint a picture of us while you're telling us all your problems.
Ooh.
You could write a funny skit about us while you're painting us, telling you about your problems. And what was the last one you said you had?
And then you could print it out.
Then you could print it out.
There it is. That'll work. And originally my intent with my counseling degree is I was going to go into sex therapy. So we could also talk about, all the issues that are arising in the bedroom as well. So, I mean, it's like it's a Swiss Army knife of interesting things to talk about at dinner parties.
There you go. So you're life of all the parties there.
Absolutely. Well, that's the other thing is like when people would find out that I had an English degree or that my MFA was in writing, they would say, "Oh my God, I don't want to talk right now because I'm afraid that you're going to judge my grammar." And the answer is, and the answer is absolutely I am.
So can you correct the rest of our sentences for the rest of the show here?
Oh God, no, because I'd like to come back.
Yeah, Steven, hey, I got to say that you are an articulate person, obviously, and that is, I guess, obviously. Everyone's figured out right now that I'm intimidated by that to some degree. I think in part because I'm sitting here trying to think of questions while you're talking. I'm like, what did he just say? Listen closely, you idiot. Stop.
Dictionary.
Right. I'm trying to write down the next question. And so I can't multitask like that.
Yeah, multitasking is a myth. It's like I consider myself to be a serial processor. It's like I can do a lot of things really poorly at one time, or I can do one thing really good at a time. I think that's such and when I had a corporate existence, when I was a copywriter, and this is before I quit my job to go back to school to be a therapist, is that was one of the things in the corporate existence is they praised, the myth, or they praised multitasking, be able to take on multiple things at one time. And it's like, but the thing is that people are doing things crappy across the board rather than actually doing one good thing at a time and then handing it off to the next person. So that's one of my pet peeves as well from my corporate days. So
yeah, you sound anti-establishment all the way.
Man, I've tried to be establishment. But this is the other interesting thing is that, to say that, well, oh, don't you live such a bohemian life? You're an artist. You get to work with all these sports teams. But what's so interesting is that when you go to the front offices of these places, you realize they're companies. They are just like any other corporate place that has cubes and people who are working and they are project managing and they're analyzing data and they're marketing analysts and they're salespeople who are selling season tickets. I mean, it's all the office. It's all office space. It's just, they may be able to go to more sports games than sporting events than you or me, but it's like, it's still corporate America. It's just that was one of the things that was so interesting to me. And that the first time that I was able to see the Cardinals front office and that, being a sports fan and on Sports Center, and they would talk about, front offices and the general manager and the team president. I always imagine these people like sitting in like this, Temple of Zeus kind of a throne or something, and they're surrounded by these marble statues of Cardinals, and, it's like, bring the free agent before me to judge, and but what's so funny is that you go to these places and it's like, oh, well, this looks like any other job, just a whole lot of Cardinal stuff everywhere. But it's just that it was just so interesting to see how that was, to get a peek behind the curtain of the great and all powerful Oz, to see that, wow, this is a shared experience, much like I think anyone who's ever had that corporate existence would have.
All right, enough of the softball questions. I'm coming at you, Steven.
Bring it.
Is you got, man, this guy is, you're off the charts. Now, okay, here we go. You ready?
Which chart are we referring to?
Yeah, what chart?
Lunge. Okay, so the eye chart. Okay. I see you. Okay, here we go. So, Steven, the difference now between nationalism and fanaticism.
Oh man.
Your answer, your reply, sir.
I didn't expect you to go there.
Your reply.
Nationalism and fanaticism. As someone, are we talking about? This is a sports podcast, and this is an art podcast.
Are we let me clarify this real quick because I didn't get the question. Are we talking about what's the difference between someone that's nationalistic and someone that's radical, or what's the difference between someone that's a sports fan and someone that's nationalistic?
Well, basically, I'm drawing from. Let's put a header on it. Marketing. What's the word I'm looking for? Marketing / propaganda.
I'm with Steven here. We are a sports podcast.
Oh, come on. Let's broaden it. We could broaden our, horizons here. Okay. So what do you got? Oh, Steve, I put you on the spot.
No. Well, let me think about how I can apply that to keep it germane to the sports, sports talk. So I think that a fanatic would not be able to write that letter to Cubs fans. Someone that's a nationalist can still be supportive of their nation, of their tribe, of their team, whatever, but to still be able to be honest about it. A fanatic is someone that has lost all points of reference, and that, whatever they do, I'm going to follow them blindly. They're the people that, think that it's wrong to criticize whoever it is, that that certain people or positions are sacrosanct. And I don't think that we have that nearly as much now in terms of sports because of the internet and open dialogue and talk radio, and everybody can have an opinion about things. But I think that, that's what I would compare them to, that, a nationalist within this context, there's still some level of objectivity, but fanaticism, I think that there is emotion overrides objectivity. I think that's my answer for right now, with permission for redirect later, Your Honor.
I think that's a great explanation, because you get fanatic, the very definition of it, you're fanatical. You're not that reasonable.
I didn't phrase the question right. I was but that was a wonderful, beautiful answer. But I guess I should have thrown in the word manipulation. I was interested to see how you thought the two paralleled each other in that, how we relate to a team and its colors and its flag, and how human beings relate to a flag and its colors and all that would then come with it. It's mythology, it's tradition, it's loyalty, and it's allegiance. So that was, and that might be on political podcast or something. I don't know.
Well, how do we loop it back to sports? And I think about the old Jerry Seinfeld bit about when we root for this one guy who we love him when he's on our team. I think about, look at Jason Hayward. It's like you love him when he's with the Cardinals, but now he's with the Cubs. Boo, boo, we don't like you. And he's like, well, it's the same person. It's just a different shirt. We're really just rooting and cheering for laundry. So, so
that one now.
Oh, man.
And I think that's so true, is that, look at players that have changed allegiances. I mean, Lou Brock started as a Cub, and for me, it's like, as someone that grew up a Cubs fan, it's like I couldn't root against people that, well, they used to be Cubs, because I think at some point or another, everybody was a Cub and they were all traded off at some point. But I think that that there's something that's there. And that was really upsetting, or not upsetting, but disheartening to see like how much people hate Jason Hayward now. And I get that it's not just about the player. It's about feeling rejected and feeling, it's tapping into those feelings of inferiority, which, let's face it, that's really what the St. Louis Chicago rivalry is so much about, is that Chicago is this massive city that has a cultural relevance that St. Louis used to have, but doesn't have quite anymore. And we don't like that, because we're proud of St. Louis. There's a lot of great things about St. Louis, but when compared to Chicago, there are things that that St. Louis is clearly behind. But one area where we traditionally haven't been, baseball, and that's where so much I think that pride comes from.
Wow, that was pretty good. I threw in toll booths. One of my big interruptions again. Never been to Chicago without a lot of change in your pocket or your little annual pass. You just start screwing things.
I discovered that recently. Yeah, that was on my going through Chicago on a trip to Milwaukee. I did some work with the Milwaukee Bucks a few weeks back, and I could not believe how much I was having to actually stop and go through the wallet and the change person. I think I even blew through one on the way back without actually having change. So, I may be calling one of you guys to bail me out of Milwaukee jail for blowing through and not having 65 cents at a particular toll.
Hey, I had some imagery in my head when you were talking about Lou Brock and then tying in with our conversation. I was picturing now Lou Brock in a Cubs uniform would be like George Washington, with a turban on right now.
It'd be like Stan Musial. What it'd be like.
That's what I was kind of picturing. Hey, Nick, reel me in. This is the part of the show where, at the point of the show where Nick has to reel me in, and we have to stick to the sports.
All right. Well, that actually covered. Since we have shout out real quick to our absent guest, Jesse Cohen. He was unable to make it tonight. We do not know why. We assume he is dead. Will be next Saturday on the Toast Dispatch Radio episode 4.
Well, no, I think we're gonna move it up to Sunday because it'll be after the Blues pound the Kings into submission.
Okay, yeah.
And,
So Sunday, after the Blues destroy the Kings, we will hold the funeral service for Jesse Cohen. He's the host of the podcast of the LA Kings. Check him out on Twitter at Kingsmen Podcast. Give him a follow. Ask him if he's dead. Check out his podcast on iTunes, and I would assume Google Play and Stitcher as well.
If he answers after Halloween, you should really be scared.
Yeah. I think that actually covers our topics for tonight. Do you guys want to wrap it up?
Well, I want a big shout out to everybody that's listening to the podcast down the road, that Steven Walden is a wonderful artist, a great guy, and you need to buy his art. If you're part of a charity, you need to get him involved. He's got a lot of energy. He's got a lot of, I think this is just the start. And that's going to be my last question for him real quick. What do you see down the road, Steven? 10 years from now, 5 years from now, what are you thinking?
Presuming I'm still painting, I would love to be the next Leroy Neiman on that scale, continuing working with celebrities, continuing to working with sports teams. I would love for you to go to Target and to be able to see my stuff on notebooks and to see my stuff in the home decor section. It's like national, regional is my first area. So yeah, I'm going to be doing more work with obviously St. Louis teams, but like I said, Milwaukee Bucks. I'm going to do work with Chicago teams. I'm going to work with Nashville, Kansas City as much as I possibly can. Branch out to national from that, international, the world, the cosmos, all of that.
Yeah, come on. You got such a great imagination. Where does this? Yeah, because don't hold yourself to this planet.
Yeah.
I want to.
Yeah.
But where can we go? I mean, I think we've pretty much, minus CNN, the way they got it figured, I think we can pretty much discount any life in this solar system. So, what do you, just let's hear it real quick.
Yeah, well, I will put in a call I've got a call in with the Elon Musk and with the terraforming of Mars that, I definitely want to be the first one to get licensing rights for any art that is produced in Mars. So, I'll see what develops from that conversation.
All right.
I like it. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening this week. You can follow Steven Walden on Twitter at Steven Walden. You can also check out his website, stevenwalden.com. I gotta say, I love the branding that you've done. It's all very easy to remember. I don't need to remember multiple hashtags or Twitter accounts or websites. It's all just Steven Walden.
Don't just check it out. Purchase something.
Check it out.
No
Buy
problem.
something. Buy it and send it to us. We'll take it. However you want to do it.
Charge the ToastDispatch. We'll
Yeah.
pay for it.
Put it on our tab. Yeah, we've got a running tab with Walden.
Oh. All right. Oh, hey,
Thank you guys so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Oh, we had a great time.
hey, you'll come on again?
Oh my God, you kidding me? Yeah, for sure.
Hey, you know what? We believe it or not, I mean, we've had Jamie Rivers on, we've had Reed Lowe, we've had Gary Unger, Tom Stillman should come on this year. I'm hoping with Bill DeWitt. If that happens, I'm going to sneak you on, and then you do all the, you work your magic from there. All right.
I love it.
All right. All right. We'll catch up with you soon.
All right.
Sounds
Thanks.
great. Thanks, guys. Let's go Blues.
Yes,
Hey, we'll take
Blues. All right. See you. Bye. All right. Are we off the air?
Your ideas are intriguing to me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.
And if you want to check us out, you can follow us on Twitter at ToastDispatch, of course, and you can check out our podcast. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Hey, Steven, I know this is always uncomfortable for me. I don't know if you've already hung up or if you're still there. It's like when the show's over. I think, what do you think they do on the radio? Have you been on the radio yet?
Have I been on the radio? Yeah, I did an interview for Camo X. It was not live; it was a remote, and they just did a tape thing, and then I also did a Camo X. I did a spot during winter warm up with them. They asked me to come over and sit with them and talk. So yeah, I've done that before as well.
You want to get some more exposure? I'd say talk to 590 The Fan. I'm
Okay.
sure they tweet like Tim McKernan on Twitter or something, but they're always looking for guests to come on. You can get on like the morning after show with Benjamin Hockman and those guys, I'm sure.
Oh, hey, that's what we'll direct you to, too. I mean, if from our opinion, the nicest guys in there are Ben Fredrickson and Hockman. I think if you,
I think Ben Fredrickson, I think he's actually the guy that I've seen at a bunch of events, and he and I have connected. He's been really, really just really generous and really kind, and yeah, I've gotten just a great vibe from him, and I would love to. I mean, it's like for me, it's that I'll do any media that people ask me to, because I mean that's how you get your name out there. It's how you do. So I'll never say no when they ask me to do morning spots at the arena for the hockey games. I have to be there at about 5:30 in the morning, which means I've got to get up at about 4 in the morning, and I don't complain about it. It's like I volunteer for that shit, because it's like that's there every other artist that I know is not going to be on Fox 2 that morning, so I'm going to be the one that is going to be.
nice. All right. Well, what are you going to do the rest of the evening? You going to watch the Cubs game?
I'm working on a Barrett Jackman painting, actually, that I didn't want to mention it on the podcast because I don't know how much I'm at liberty to disclose, but so Brett